Hey, welcome back, Mike. You know, Mike, I was reading something very interesting that really got me to thinking. That
That's
there are,
dangerous.
boy, you better believe it. I was reading about individuals that have the ability to remember, have a photographic memory. And the problem is that when some of them, when they get to be 40, 50 years old, because they remember everything, all of a sudden they have trouble staying in the here and now.
Okay.
We, I don't have a photographic memory. As a matter of fact, most of us don't. We have to, therefore, think differently. We have to rely upon our
Well, you prioritize memory, like, last week I needed milk and bread or whatever at the store. I'm not keeping that. That gets flushed out.
That's right. And we also have to rely upon our sixth sense. And that's where some individuals really have that gift and ability to channel in various different entities or individuals. And today, it is our fortunate experience to have back onto our program Magenta Pixie. She is a phenomenal lady. She's been an author, channeler. She's worked with individuals. She has a latest book. Welcome. It is great to have you back, Magenta.
Thank you so much, Patrick and Mike. Thank you for asking me back. Great to be here.
Oh, I would imagine. I know that you're always flooded with a lot of different thoughts from, help me again. You channel with the white-winged.
The white-winged collective consciousness of 9.
Yes, and those individuals help you to sort of focus in on some of the things as to how you can help other people.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Would the 9 be people who have incarnated, or are they a higher realm beings?
Well, they've incarnated as me, so they are a future version of me, if you like, from a collective consciousness level, from a group soul level.
Okay.
So their incarnation would be me in the 3rd dimension. However, that would also go somewhat further when you look at unification. Then from one point of view, the 9 are everyone as well. And then the 9 would also be other incarnations that would be me. So in a linear sense, from my perspective, the 9 are me in the future. From their perspective, they are a consciousness that remains within this field of unity, this unified field that doesn't individualize. That consciousness that is the 9 only individualizes as a group soul structure, so 6th dimensional, when I communicate with them. So they individualize in order to communicate with me, because I give them individualization through my communication with them.
Okay.
When they're not in communication with me, then they would be beyond 6th dimensional and be more 11th dimensional, I guess, in this unified field. So they are incarnated as me and as other, in a linear sense, other aspects that are also me in different incarnations. But then when you look at the wider field beyond just the individual perspective, then they could be seen as everyone, but that's not the perspective they take when they're the 9, because everyone is the unified source. But the 9 know that they're source. They know that they are part of source and part of that sea of that oneness when they are not individualized in communication with me. So from that point of view, they would be source. So therefore they would be everyone. But from the point of view of individualization, they are me and I am them. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you're very fortunate in the fact that, first of all, I don't think you have a photographic memory. I know I don't. So we rely upon that higher realm that really gives us focus and direction in our life. And
Yeah, sorry, I would absolutely agree with everything you say. From our perspective, a photographic memory is very different to how we would think if we haven't got a photographic memory. But from the nine's point of view, what they would say is actually it's the same way of using the brain. However, it's perceived differently by different people. So someone who is channeling could be seen to have a photographic memory, but that would only be in the sense of the fact that they're communicating with a higher, what they see as a higher dimensional source. So me as Magenta, I don't have a photographic memory because I don't remember everything that I've seen and I can't recall that. But I can do that through the nine, who have a wider perspective than I do. But when you look at the fact that the nine are a deeper aspect of me and they're my subconscious mind, if I'm using my subconscious mind to recall things that I've once seen or things that I may not even have seen, that's another level. But on the photographic memory level, I would be able to have the recall through channeling. But from the nine's point of view, it's the same thing, but we see it differently. So how we use our brain, sort of, sight, sound, hearing, all of those things we perceive as different. So, for example, in the spiritual movement, we might say we're a clairvoyant because we sense things and we see things in our mind, or we might be clairaudient because we hear things. So we perceive that is coming through our ears. But the nine would say this is actually all the same energy. It's the brain. It's the brain as a third dimensional interface interpreting the code of the third dimension. And it's just perceived differently in a unique way by each one of us. So from the point of view of what photographic memory means, no, I wouldn't have that.
So is this the third book that you've written?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I was trying to figure out what it meant. The infinite helix and the emerald flame. Now, I was thinking what helix meant, if that's a DNA thing or if it's a shape. And shapes having coded messages, sort of like crop circles, and if people want to relate to shapes as messages, we have communication ways of looking at shapes, like if there's, if you think of street signs that are triangles or diamonds, they mean caution or stop or other things. And some of these crop circles are encoded messages. And is that what the infinite helix means, or is that something different?
It is that, yes. The infinite helix, the helix is a geometric structure, so it can be seen as a shape. But it's the DNA because the DNA is a geometric structure. So the DNA is the shape. So the infinite, what that really means in the context of the teaching within this book is that you have the double helix, which is what the third dimensional individuals have, that we're all born with. This gives us this linear thinking. So when we have to have this in order to cope with decoding the code within the third dimension. So we have this linear thinking with the double helix. When we move into spiritual awareness, Kundalini activation, etc., and we change the structure of our DNA, we move into what the nine call the triple helix. They also call this tri-locational consciousness. We have bilocational consciousness, which is thinking and holding two structures, to belief systems at the same time. Trilocational consciousness is holding three different concepts or paradigms or consciousness structures at the same time. And then we would move out beyond the infinite helix. So we're moving into beyond the triple helix. So we're moving into more than three. We're moving into many. The infinite helix is the infinite structure. So it's knowing oneself as an infinite, as an infinity, as a separate, individualized infinity. And that knowing, that consciousness that we have that sort of links with the infinite helix is more of an omnipresence, exactly the same thing as your first question about the nine. The infinite helix consciousness is the nine for me. That's where my infinite helix is. It's not here as me, as magenta. That's the double helix and somewhat the triple helix. And then when I go into the beyond the triple helix and the infinite helix, I'm the 9. But it's all in us. It's all in our DNA structure. So the infinite helix is literally a DNA structure that is, so we have the double helix that's kind of 2, we have the triple helix that's 3, we have beyond that that's more, these etheric strands that come online within the DNA structure. The infinite helix is an infinite quantum structure that is made up of an infinite filaments of light within the DNA formation that just go into this sort of quantum like in a hall of mirrors, when you're in a hall of mirrors and you're looking at all these different mirrors and they just go on and on and on, like holographic. That's what the infinite helix is. So it's the double helix in its infinite form. So it's the DNA, but it's also the structure, because the geometry we use in order to allow our third dimensional brain to decode this code that is the DNA and that is universal fabric is a structure. We use a structure because it's directional. The third dimensional interface that is the human brain needs to have direction, because we think in a linear sense, because we're in linear time, which is the double helix. We're embracing all these different helices, if you like, within us, not just the one or the infinite. We're embracing all of them. So the third dimensional interface that is the brain perceives this code, which is an omnipresent paradigm, if you like. It's an omnipresent thinking, and within that, this triple consciousness, trilocational thinking, this multi-locational thinking. Many individuals can take that energy and have that knowing and hold it as an energy, but not be able to process it. And so what they're going to do when they go through this awakening is think, I have these thoughts, I have this knowing, I have this unity in my mind, and I can feel it, and it's in my heart, and it's in my chakras, and it's everywhere, but I don't know what it means. I don't know how to put it into words. It's simply there as an energy, and it's beautiful, and they can experience it, and one must experience it without having to put it into words. But there are those who do want to analyze. This is the indigo energy. They do want this put into words. I'm one of them. So one would try to make sense of this omnipresent, multi-locational, infinite helix energy. One does this through this interface that is the human brain, and one does this through direction. So up, down, forward, back, left, right, as in measurement. So the geometric structure is the formation of mind outside of the infinite helix, which isn't a structure. It has no structure. It is pure unity. We create the structure through needing to experience and analyze and understand that energy, and vice versa. The structure itself, the non-structure itself, which is source, 0 point, prime creator, etc., wishes to know itself. So it does that through creating the geometry, the structure for us here in the third dimension, in linear time, with the double helix, to experience, to be able to pass back. So that's kind of where we are, and that's why we need direction, and that's why the 9 talk about the geometric structure that is the infinite helix. It's the same thing as the DNA. It's on the front cover of the second book, Divine Architecture and the Starseed Template. So this structure here is a really, really simplified 2-dimensional version of the geometric structure that is just one directional code for individuals to be able to interpret this energy. That is also a 2-dimensional, very simple depiction of the DNA. This gets far more complicated when you start to work with it and analyze it.
Can you move your book closer to your face?
Sorry.
No, that's all right. There we go. So that way people can, good, excellent.
So that's the structure that I'm talking about, which is very simple. And this book, the second one that I channeled, is really about constructing this geometry. When you do this within mind, within consciousness, you're constructing it within the match, within the DNA. So you are activating the DNA, and the DNA can activate without you using the structure. What you're doing is understanding the structure, and you are taking control of, not in a negative sense, in a positive sense. You become the one who steers one's own ship, if you like. You become conscious of that DNA. And then in the third book that you're asking about, The Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame, this goes into working with that structure in a much deeper way, and understanding it in a much deeper way. And
you've talked about indigo, and in this book it says emerald. What do those, you talk about people, indigo children, or there's different ways to say that, and then emerald flame, what do those mean?
Well, the indigo flame would relate to the third eye chakra, and the mind, the clairvoyance, the thought, the intelligence. So much more than that. It actually is a particular pattern. Each color is a pattern. Each color has a structure. So you could say the indigo flame would be the higher third eye, the activated pineal gland. But
so these are a certain group of people who have that.
Absolutely, yes. When I say everyone has the third eye, so everyone has the indigo energy, because everyone has the pineal gland in the third eye.
Right.
But there are individuals that have incarnated with the indigo energy that takes that sort of the energy that is the pineal gland in the third eye, which is clairvoyance, insight, and everything that goes with it. They've taken that as a structure within the whole. It's become a personality, if you like, that they incarnate with. And that personality is, I see through this, I see what is in alignment, I see truth, and I am here to do whatever I need to do with that truth, which is pretty much to bring it to the world. So the indigo energy is about change, about revolution, about the end of falsehoods and the beginning of truth in a third dimensional sense. It's an indigo wave, an indigo revolution, an indigo movement, an indigo uprising, and we're right in the middle of that right now. So the emerald flame would be the higher heart that is often spoken about. So the heart chakra, the emerald, the green. The reason why the nine speak of emerald rather than green, so we could call this the green ray. The green ray is the energy of the heart, and when the heart is activated and is in alignment with all the other energies within the other chakras, then one could call this the higher green ray or the higher heart. The reason why the nine talk about emerald is because the gemstone visualization. So if I ask you now to visualize the color green, so you're going to see a beautiful green. You've got green behind me and green within the book. So, the color green. And then I ask you to visualize an emerald green. It's got a sparkly, crystalline geometry. It's an activated green. It's green with a charge. It's the gemstone crystalline emerald ray. You can feel it when you visualize green and you visualize emerald. It has that activation, that charge. So that's the emerald ray. It's understanding the higher heart, that is compassion, that is unconditional love, that is absolutely a match to the fifth dimension. And the emerald is the activation of that. So it's the knowing that we have compassion, what to do with it. What is compassion? Is it an emotion we feel, or is it more than an emotion that we feel? Is it a living geometric structure? And the answer is yes. So the emerald flame, and flame comes from So there's the ray, which is the emerald, the activated heart ray. But the flame is given the word flame because...
Is it more of an action then?
Well, when you look at the structure of the universe, as in 0 point, known also as dark energy, I believe, in our scientific community, but that they don't see the fullness of that, if you like. If you look at that 0 point field, clairvoyantly, it looks like fire. It's actually like a moving, intelligent mind that contains the memories, what we perceive as memories, because these can be past memories, present memories, and future memories, contains the memories of all and everything. And that exists within structure as well. So there are smaller ones that contain the memory fields of a certain area of consciousness, and then that expands into all. The same as the double helix, the infinite helix, and the triple helix. The same thing as bilocation, trilocation, multilocation. It's the same thing. So
I sort of call those
it looks
little...
like fire. So it's a flame, and when it's activated within you, it's your DNA structure. When it's activated within you, then you know that is the flame and the fire. And the 9 also use the word fire. They spell the word fire F-I-R-E. They don't use an F. They spell fire P-H-I-R-E. Because fire is also relative to phi. I mean, I'm so not mathematical, but phi is the golden mean, and the Fibonacci sequence, the golden equation. So that's the energy structure that you create within your DNA field when you activate the emerald flame or any flame, because your awareness of the clairvoyant fire, which is also dragon's breath, the dragon breathes fire. So the breath of the dragon is the fire, which is the memories of all and the memories of everything. And you learn to use that in your own awakening. And what you're doing here is working very deeply with metaphor and symbolism. And the DNA activation and the light body respond to that which is in your mind and heart. And when that which is in your mind and heart is symbolism and picture and structure and visual, you create an energetic match within the DNA. So you work with the activation, which is ascension, this way. So that's the flame.
It's interesting, Magenta. We as people have such a poor concept of God or the source, and through your work, you're really trying to also define that source of energy, and
Yes.
you're sort of allowing individuals to not see God just as a loving entity, but it's much more than that.
Absolutely. I mean, the 9, that's that aspect of me, if you like, that subconscious, superconscious aspect, is the mission, is to bring that teaching, because there's been so many teachings since the beginning of our known history and before that of what God and source is, and so many different interpretations, and that has caused division, it's caused conflict, and it's created polarity, and that's been hijacked and it's been deliberate. And we're now moving into a time where we're moving away from that. We're stopping the control, we're stopping the hijacking, we're moving into sovereignty, and therefore we are becoming sovereign within tying up all these belief systems and paradigms that the human race has had for millennia. We are tying all that up into our own unique way, creating our own unique pattern or paradigm, which is why I say that this structure here is just one. It's just the one the 9 have used to provide a directional framework or a map, if you like.
Yeah, can
for
you
an
move
individual.
can you move the, yeah, there we go. Great.
Yeah. So it's just one structure, and what I'm saying here is the structure that you see in your mind, in your consciousness, in your imagination, or the structure that you feel, or however you work with that structure, the way it works with you is the right way. And the reason why the 9 use this particular structure is because it's very similar to the one that a great majority of starseeds have within them. So for those who've got their own cosmic map within them, if you like, then they're going to follow that, and they will use the material in these books that the 9 have channeled through me. They will use that as confirmation of their own knowing, of their own paradigm. These books will be like just a mirror to them. And then there are others who haven't found that structure within themselves, but they know that they're on that journey. They're in that role of seeker. So they find this information along with other information, and then they're able to use these books as well as other people's books and other information as part of their as part of the tools to be able to formulate their own structure within. So they're teaching tools, but they're really confirmation tools. They're just mirrors to those who are already within that path and working with that structure, who might not be able to put that oneness, that unity, that energy that they feel into words. So when they read the books, it's like they're saying the words. And I've had people write to me, tell me that this is how they feel when they read the books. You know, yes, they might think, oh, well, this is the 9 and Magenta Pixie channeled this, but the words feel familiar to them because they think to themselves, I'm speaking this, because they're resonating with the material, because it matches their own paradigm, their own structure that they haven't been able to put into words yet. So that's the path and the mission, if you like, of the 9. And in that respect, that's how come they are decoding and explaining what source or God is.
You sort of have defined a little bit more the word matrix. Not only do we live in a matrix surrounding us, but we are also creating our own matrix.
Yes, then that's exactly what this is. That's what the structure is. That's the matrix, which is the DNA, and it is the geometry, and it is the directional cosmic map that we can use in order to decode. But the matrix can be used as a metaphor for more than just our individual, I mean, that's all
right.
that there is, really. Our individual structure is an infinity, and it is infinity. We are everything within that structure. We are infinite within that structure. So that structure's the matrix. We can also use the word matrix to describe the reality that we live in. And that can be used in a negative sense and in a positive sense, because one can see the matrix as a control structure and a false created matrix. The 9 would call this the inverted, or actually somebody else mentioned the words inverted matrix to me in a question, and the 9 have used that ever since to explain that. And yes, it's true, there is a created matrix, an inverted matrix, where we have been hijacked, and that is still in place. However, it's nowhere near as strong as it was. No, absolutely nowhere near, but it's still there. But then we have this organic matrix as well.
You know what I'd like to do, Magenta, since we've just about out of time, I'd like to talk about the matrix in another segment with you, because it sounds like you have a really good handle on a variety of different things that the listening audience would find very fruitful.
Thank you. I'd love to come back and have another talk.
Mike, I've learned a lot.
Mm-hmm. It seems like it's been like 5 minutes, but
I know.
Has that really been half an hour?
yeah.
Magenta
Wow.
Pixie can be at magentapixie.com. Her latest book, Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame, is available. If you go onto her website, you can find out how you can acquire
And Amazon,
this.
I think.
And Amazon, yes. Mike, time goes by quickly.
Yes, it does. Everyone, thanks for watching, and we'll be back soon.